Hey y'all, welcome, welcome. This is about Love and Merge Huntsville. These Lips Don't Lie. Season 9, Episode 6. Let's get into it. Hey y'all. This picks up where it left off last week. Now, if you saw it last week, you know that it left off very chaotic. They're at the Big D Energy Activity Field Day or whatever that Destiny has put together. And Marceau and Martel are going in pretty much on each other. Unfortunately, Letitia was collateral damage. And I don't feel, I'm not a fan of Tisha, but at the same token, I always try to remain on the side of right. And Marceau and Martel were completely wrong. Both were completely wrong. Martel, for one, for dragging Letitia into it, making this about his digs at Marceau attacking or dragging his wife, might as well say, and then Marceau with not stopping and putting an end to it and allowing Tisha to get those strays. Okay, let's talk about it. So I had to listen to this a couple of different times, right? It was like I had to rewind it, go back, but between all the talking over each other, all of the bleeps, the way they cut it up, and they cut it up. We know what they cut it up because if you have followed the clips that Ohm puts out there, the clip that they showed that was supposed to be a part of this scene was not even on there. It was only like a piece of it that was a part of this scene. So they were cutting it up and all kinds of stuff. So it didn't flow the way it probably should have. But between Martel saying that Tisha been with his boy and how he could have been with Tisha, how he could have joined in or he saw it go down or what have you. He talked about how Marceau had 20 women since he's been married and he had the proof, so he was going to go to the car and get the proof. How he said they used to be out there screwing women together. And Marceau screwed somebody after he screwed somebody, right after he screwed somebody. So they all was out there being nasty together. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And the fact that he had to drag Letitia into it. And then she gets up and admits it and just saying, you know, well, Martel, whatever. You know what I mean? First of all, if it was a long time ago, it doesn't even count. It was before, if it was before Marceau or what have you, you know, why are you bringing this up? It ain't like she was with Marceau. She was dating Marceau. So what has she been with your boy? So what she got everybody got a pass. So I didn't understand why he felt like he needed to bring that up. And then Tisha was like, well, that was in college. Tisha, you don't owe that nobody an explanation. You really don't. It was awful. I thought it was horrible. And then after all of the nastiness going back and forth, then Destiny gets upset and wants to leave. Kimmy's like, you want to leave your event? This is your event. You put this together. She gonna up and leave because she's frustrated. Everybody's going because them two are going back and forth. Mind you, she asked the questions so that Martel could get whatever he was feeling off his chest based on what he had discussed with her at her storage unit. And I'm gonna call it a storage unit because it ain't. Yeah, it ain't whatever she call it, whatever she's calling it. Her storage unit for Madani. So after they asked that question, she comes back with a second question talking about, well, is there anybody among these alleged friendships that have been here for you other than your spouse? And everybody's like, well, you called that right, alleged friends, because clearly ain't nobody amongst them friends. How you gonna let somebody go? First of all, Maurice, how you gonna let him go in on your brother? You know why you can let him go in on your brother? Because you don't want him to call your stuff out. Martel is a loose cannon, and no one is safe. No one is safe. And if he knows your business, if he knows your business, trust and believe, if he gets mad, he's going to tell it. Whether he knows all of the facts or not, he's going to tell it. To get the light off of him. Because that's what he does. So Maurice didn't even go or come to Marceau's aid. I get the M's mixed up, y'all. Forgive me. And that was my baby brother, because Marceau's the baby, right? I'm not gonna have you come at my baby brother, regardless of what y'all experienced together, how y'all ran together. But I might shut up if I was a part of that group and you just ain't called me out. You just focusing on Marcel, because my wife's sitting here too, so I ain't trying to be all up in that. Because you notice right after that whole ordeal, Kimmy pulls Marceau to the side and talks about how, they were all both wrong, and how Tisha got uncalled for strays and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, that's why I told her to leave. I didn't want her to be here. I told her to just go ahead and go. And Kimmy did not agree with that, how that went down. So she was looking probably away. And Martel jumps out of his truck and said, Kimmy, don't be mad at me. He acts like a child. I swear he is so immature. He acts like a child. Kimmy, don't be mean with me. And then Maurice says, oh, she's not mad. What? You going over there and you're going to talk to him like... He said, that's exactly what Marceau and Martel, that's what they do. He's kind of being chummy with them because he got his stuff too. And Martel knows. He knows all that stuff. They made a pact. They made a pact. They did. And, this is ridiculous. It's terrible. So Destiny leaves her event. Lance leaves with her as well. Everybody starts, moving out. That was a mess. So the next scene is um Marceau and Tisha at the jewelry store. And Tisha's looking at wedding bands. She's, trying on a few wedding bands. Marceau shows up because they're really there to get him a band, because he doesn't wear a wedding ring. And she's been fighting for him to wear this wedding ring since season 1 that we know about. Right? And his thing was, I don't need a wedding band. He doesn't see the significance in it. And he looks at the wedding band and she said, well, how much is this one? And I think the guy said 2,000. And so Tisha said, oh, that's not bad. And Marcel said, yes, it is bad. He said, these used to be $88. So Tisha looks up and says, oh, they used to be $88? And the man said, 25 years ago. Yeah. So, they go to the side. They start having this long, drawn out conversation about the significance of a wedding band, why he needs to wear one. Tisha said it would probably prevent people from coming for their marriage, right? He starts this gaslighting about, how he doesn't find a significance in a wedding band, and that she would can wear the band for both of them. And I don't know what's the big deal. Put on the band, Marcel. That's the least you could do. So she goes in. She's like, these 7 years have been very hard for her. She's been in a depression. She's tired of people coming at her on the internet. She's just tired of people attacking her. And she said it gets to be a lot. She said it's been really rough. And then she said this last year was really tough because they even talked about, not being together anymore and how that would look. She said, but she's happy to know that they love each other enough to try to figure it out, to stick it out. And and then he goes through this old song and dance about how he needs to apologize to Destiny about the other day, and how he can only be responsible for how he responds to people. He can't even be responsible about how everybody else reacts and how they act. He said, but he will apologize for his part in that whole fiasco at the thing. So yeah. So the next scene is Melody and Tisha. They meet at a taco shop, and Melody says she's getting together with all the girls that had gone on the girls trip just to get their take on everything. She hadn't heard from anybody since the girls trip. So when she comes in, Tisha was like, I think they get the pleasantries out the way. They talk about Huntsville downtown and how I guess they must be building up downtown at Huntsville or whatever, because they're talking about how all this stuff looks really nice now, and they've been going down there with the kids and taking advantage, I guess, the new hot spots or whatever. And then Melanie goes right into, I haven't seen you since the girls trip, how have you been, blah blah blah. And Tisha's like, oh, I'm so glad I got home. I was so happy to get home from that girls trip, no whatever. And then she dives right in to Maurice and the DUI. And I think she starts talking about it, and Tisha's like, yeah, she said, when we heard about it, we were just so happy that, he wasn't hurt and that nobody else was hurt. And we were happy that, that it didn't turn out to be worse than what it was. And Melody's like, you know what, Tisha? That is so nice of you to say that. She said, but that's what they should have led with when Maurice got out of jail. She said the next night he must have been out and about after he got let go, like out of jail. And it was more like the rants were like free Maurice and free Maurice, and he'd holding up bottles of liquor, like popping bottles or something she said or whatever. And Tisha said, I remember the free Maurice, but I don't remember the other part or whatever. She was like, yeah, she said they should have been talking more like what you just said, as far as letting, she said, and she talks about how she lost her grandmother from drunk driver. And so, Letitia's like, I understand where Mel's coming from, but based on her experiences with, drunk driving or whatever. But, she said they were just happy to know that nobody else got hurt and Maurice was fine. So then Melody goes into talking about, well, you see how they talking about how he had lipstick on his mouth. And she said, lipstick? So she goes to her phone and pulls up the mugshot, and she's like, oh no, this looks like he drank something. So Melly says, oh, so you're just gonna look past that. She's like, no, I'm not gonna. She said, I feel like that's reaching. She was like, I don't think that's nothing like that. She said, people always exaggerating stuff. And so she said, okay, whatever. And then she said, so then Melody goes, well, was it really in the daytime that he got arrested? So at that point, Tisha gets her purse and is like, okay, well, I'm gone. She packs up her little food. She was like, thank you for the invite. She was real pleasant about it. And Melanie said, "Oh no, 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 no! You gotta pay your bill." She said, "You gotta pay your bill. Y'all better get her, cause she walking out not paying the bill." And she left Melody right there, not paying the bill. Now Melody was being messy. Melly was being messy, but she goes into a confessional and she goes, "Well, I feel like the Scots got a pact and they all sticking to this pact and they not going to talk about Maurice." Well, it's an ongoing case, Melody. I don't know if they can really, I don't know how much they can really say, but, um, and again, that's family. So you're not going to throw your family under the bus, whether you're an in-law or not. So, I mean, I'm with Tisha. I'm with Tisha on this. You know what I mean? Deuces, Melody. I'm not talking to you about this. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for me and my husband's dinner. And I'm out. She was classy about it. I like the way she handled that. I'm usually not on Tisha's side, but that scene I was. So the next scene, Martel and Destiny. They link up and basically they talk about the fiasco at the field day. And you know, Destiny pretty much tells him, "I did that for you because you felt like you wanted to express what was on your heart or whatever because you felt like you weren't being supported." I'm paraphrasing, I don't know how she said it. But then Martell turns it around and says, "Well, no, that's not what men do. Like, that's not what we do. We usually don't care about anybody reaching out to us or whatever." And then they go to the flashback about him with him and her standing in her storage unit about how he didn't feel supported and how if something happened, since it happened, he'd like to get a phone call, somebody checking up on him. So which is it, Martel? All you do is lie. That's a lying somebody. He be, oh my God, he's a lie. He lies about everything. So they go back and forth. And then Destiny's basically saying, "I think you owe Tisha an apology. It wasn't right how you came at her. You was throwing, you know, strays at her. She was throwing missiles. She said you were throwing everything." And his thing was, well, her and Marceau are one. So I guess basically if he can get it, she can get it. And I'm thinking to myself, but you put Tisha's past out there. It's a little different when you throw somebody's woman's past out there. Like, if I was Marceau, and I guess Marceau don't fight, and I guess, he got a lot more to lose than Martel. Honestly. He does, and if his persona is seen as being violent on TV, I mean, he's got business deals to consider. You don't think about that, but off the break if you don't have nothing going on, Martel. But when you're a business person, you're building houses and you do commercial ventures, things of that nature. Um you can't put your fist up. Can't put you can't always resort to violence. But Marceau is smart enough to know that that's probably what Martel was aiming for. But Martel ain't got nothing to lose. What Martel got going on, y'all? Honestly. Sidebar. What does Martel have to lose if he does anything? He's got pending court cases, where he's facing possible jail time if he's convicted again, even though he wasn't convicted the first time, according to him, right? Um, he don't have Inez anymore. The wine business went belly up. He doesn't have his builder's license, right? So he's got to, hunker on another builder in order to make money. And all he really has is the show. I mean, I'm sure he gets a pretty penny for these episodes now. They've been on for 6, 7 years. But that's all he has going for him. However, on the other hand, Marceau, we see him building something. He's standing in the middle of a house that he's supposed to be building. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not building it. I know he's in the process of building their own home, right? Um, Yeah, Marcel really don't have nothing to lose, and I don't blame Marcel with not getting to the point where he wanted to deck him because I'm sure he did. I'm pretty sure he did. But like I said, Marcel is a loose cannon, y'all. Oh my God, he's a loose cannon. But anyway, so he's sitting there with Destiny, and they're talking about, I think she said that she owed he owed Letitia an apology, and his thing was like, no, he wasn't doing that. So they go to Marceau. He's talking to his crew. I think Chris Fletcher pays him a visit because he says his office has moved to, I guess, that side of Johnsville. So while he was on that side of town, he decided to stop over just to check out, the dwelling that Marceau was putting up. So he's walking around. He seemed pretty impressed. So he got the floating stairs and da 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 da. Got the big windows and I was looking through that structure as well, and I can never pinpoint what's what. I need walls to figure out what's what. You know what I mean? But some people got that eye. So they go back and forth between Chris Fletcher. I don't really remember what they were saying. Um, I don't remember what they were saying. I think Marceau says that he's pretty much done with Martel because it's no coming back from that ordeal. And I don't blame him. And you're gonna talk about my wife. It's bad enough you talk about me. I don't care about you talking about me, but you're gonna talk about my wife. And I feel like that's where it really stems from, how he came at Tisha and put her stuff out there. And he said there's no coming back from that. Even if it's an apology, there's no coming back from that. And I agree with him. And he said, he asked Chris, he said, doesn't Martel, she said, you and Martel are pretty good friends. And Chris said, yeah. He said, but he always seems to feel like he could call your wife a side chick. And Chris said, yeah, he knows I don't play that. And then they go back to a flashback where he's calling Nell a side chick to Chris's face. And he said something to Nell about he heard that she was a side chick. This is only proof positive that Martel is very immature and him and Arion deserve each other. Deserve each other. So it talks to Nell. I mean, I just feel like Martel doesn't have any respect for any of the women on the show, except for Destiny. And why is that? Let's ask why. And it goes back and forth between Destiny and Martel, then Marceau and Chris, and I can't remember all the dialogue. But and the last scene was Trisha and Mel. And again, Mel is meeting with people that she invited on the trip. Trisha talks and says that she wanted to say bye before she left, but people made it so awkward and she was so frustrated that she just didn't say bye. So Mel says, will you help make it awkward? Right? So Melody asked her, so you went to a house to train someone that you didn't know? And Trisha just looking at her like, she said, well, which house did you go to? And she was like trying to, she said, I don't know. She said it was in the mountains. She said, oh, okay, which one? What road? She says, I don't remember what road. She said, well, what did the driveway look like? She said it was a typical driveway. She said, no, ain't no houses up in the mountains got a typical driveway. She said it was a lighthouse. It was like, she said, well, one was whiter than the other. She said that might have been the one that I left in April. She said, when were you there? And she couldn't tell her. She said she knew it was 2020, but she didn't know what month. And she knew it was chilly outside. And I'm thinking, when it's chilly outside, that's from like October to March, February, March, right? I don't know how it is in Alabama, right? I'm not sure. But those are like the winter months, so to speak. Mel left in April. He must have been in that house until August, which is the summertime. So April is spring, summer. So when did you go to the house? So the timeline don't map out. Mel says she is failing miserably. And she is into, she does this she always stuttering and trying to catch herself, and I don't know what it is. Like, she said, were you with Ken at the time? She said, no, he came much later. Did he? Do we know that? Were you still married to the other dude? Well, yeah, she had to be. She was still married to the guy because she's still married to him now. So yeah, she was married. So were you at the house before Melody left? I'm just saying. Was this during the break before Melody had Sugar Mama? Like, when is this timeline? Because I'm like thrown. And I think Trisha doesn't want to say too much because she doesn't want to make it seem like she was at this woman's house while she was still married to him and hadn't left yet. Just saying. I feel like Melanie hadn't gone nowhere. Or this was during the break where Melanie came back. So that was still her marital home. And you went to this man's house. She said, Trisha is failing miserably. She said, she said, so did any of these conversations happen or this narrative happen prior to me inviting you on the trip? And she's like, conversations with who? I'm like, Trisha, stop the bull crap. Stop the bull crap. Stop acting like you are dense and don't know what the hell's going on. Because she clearly knows what's going on. But when she asked her all the questions, she was like, yeah, I knew that's all. She said, and it didn't dawn on you, do you need to pull me to the side and said, this is what the narrative is, and this is what people are trying to say. It didn't dawn on you to pull me to the side to tell me that beforehand. And she just standing there looking crazy. And it goes off. So I don't know. What y'all think? This episode was messy. Messy, messy, messy boots. I don't know what to say about. I feel sorry for Tisha. I think in this episode, I feel sorry for Tisha because she really didn't deserve that dragging, or that she really didn't. However, I have to commend Marcel. He had that one line that I loved. And when and when Destiny asked that question about, what did she say? She asked that question about who amongst this alleged friend group has been there for you besides your spouse? So of course everybody said nobody, but Marcel gonna pipe up and say, well, I would say Martel, because he's taught me how to not leave my wife for a shareable side piece. Well, of course, after that, all hell broke loose. That was the quote of the episode. The quote of the episode. He taught me not to leave my wife for a shareable side piece. He was on fire. Martel was on fire. That's all I got to say, y'all. Y'all leave your comments and tell me what you think about this episode. And until next week, everyone be blessed. Peace.